Your next step is on your hoodie is your actual hood. So this is the final part that we're going to do. Now you should have 4 pieces of your hood cut. I actually have 2 in grey and 2 in black because I'm going to do the outside layer grey and the inside layer black. So starting on one layer, we're going to put right sides together. So I need to turn these layers over, have a right side up here, and put the other right side on top of it, lining it all up properly, particularly around this top edge because that's where we're going to be sewing. And you can put some pins around this top edge. And you're going to be sewing along this big curve the whole way around, and the whole way around it and the whole way down it on both layers. So you're going to do this to this layer as well as your inside layer. Taking the pins out as you go, of course. So that's on a normal seam allowance. Now I have both of these sewn around the curved edge, all around this part. So it's very close to see here. Now, the next step I'm going to partly show you here, but I'll also show it to you while I'm sewing it on the machine. This is one of the slightly more fiddly steps of the hoodie project. You're going to be opening this out and looking at the looking from the inside. Now I'm at the top of the hood here. So to give you a bit more perspective, I'll just fold it like this and show you from here. So this is that sort of curved edge that's going to join to the neckline, and I'm working up here right now. I'm going to push the seam allowance over to one side, and I'm going to make sure I'm pulling it, the seam itself, so this part, pulling it open as I do this. Pull it open, fold it over, and I'm going to be stitching a top stitch all the way along here. Now it's going to get more difficult as I get into here because this is a big curve. It's like a big cave. So I'm sort of sewing my way into a cave. So what I'm going to have to do is let this part bunch up as I get into this part and just work on a couple of centimeters, even just 1 centimeter at a time, of pulling it outwards, folding it over, and sewing a little stitch. And I want to keep this stitch a consistent distance away from this seam line that I've put in, because that's what's really going to show along the top of my hoodie, this line showing along here. Now I'm going to change, I've been sewing this on a black thread, I'm going to change to a light grey thread because I don't want to see a big black line across here. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the inside layer as well. On the inside layer, this is also looking at that top edge. I will also be pushing it to this side. Now you can just check for yourselves if you like that when they then join together as a seam, one of them will be going to this side and the other one will be going to this side, and so they will nest into each other really nicely in here. Even though right now they look like they're both going the same direction, they will actually nest into each other when one is flipped over top of the other. So I'm going to bring you over to the sewing machine and show you how this looks when we're actually sewing. Okay, I'm at the machine now. I'm trying to balance my computer with my video camera on my lap, so we'll see how well I can sew. Please forgive me if everything falls away suddenly. Alright, so I've got my seam allowance pushed to this side. I'm pulling this, and that my presser foot is holding that down. I'm pulling this open from here and from here, these 2 parts here, at the same time as I'm going to sew. I'm also checking that I am stitching an even distance away from this seam line. So I've used this little groove in the sewing machine foot, this little groove that's along here, as a sort of guideline for myself to line up this seam with it. So let's see how we go. Now what you'll see happening is this part at the back is starting to sort of bulk up a little bit. That's fine. That's going to need to happen so I can sort of get into this cave that's coming up here. Keep pulling it open, pushing that side down as flat as I can. I'm stuck under the computer. There we go. All right, allow all of this to bulk. So I'm really into the cave right now. So I'm going to just focus on a little bit in front of me at a time. Alright, let's have a look at this. Now, I don't think I stayed a very even distance from my seam. I think a couple of times I went in a little bit too close. But let's look at it from the good side. And it's not too bad. That black that's showing through a little bit more there is actually because of the thread choice I used in my first seam. Look, the seam's a little bit wonky there. So I could come and redo this if I wanted to, but it's not too bad. So that's my top stitch as it's looking. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to the inside of the hood, pushing it to the same direction. So if I'm starting at that top edge, I'm also pushing my seam allowance so that must be the bottom edge. So I'm still pushing my seam allowance from the right to the left as I sew it, and when I put the two of them together it will actually be flipped. So now that I have two layers of my hood, an inside and an outside, I'm going to put these with right sides together. So that's the bottom edge of my hood and this is the face edge of my hood. I'm going to put them with right sides together and I'm going to nest the top seams together. And now you should find that the two seam allowances will face opposite ways, like this. I'm going to nest those in together and I'll pin those ones first. To hold that in place. Now I'm going to pin all the way along this straighter edge on both sides of where the top seam allowance meets. All the way around to this side. Pin. And all the way around this edge as well. And I'm going to sew this with a normal seam allowance. Now, coming up is where if you're wanting to put in a cord, like a drawstring or something, you will be adding that in the next step. So I'll just show you a bit further away. This is where I've got my pins all around here. And just to show you where this is on the whole piece. These are, down here is that sort of curved edge of the hoodie, and this is that straight edge of the hoodie where I've got my pins in. I'm going all the way around it on a straight, on a normal seam allowance.